Homelessness has grown 12% in the last year, according to numbers released last week by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. As of this past January, 653,000 people in America, roughly 20 in every 10,000, were dealing with homelessness, with disproportionate numbers of people of color. After 7 months of decline, home prices have risen for the last 8 months, with the S&P's Case-Shiller U.S. National Home Price NSA Index reaching a historic high in September. According to Peggy Bailey, the Vice President for Housing and Income Security at the Center for Budget and Policy Priorities, the main driver of homelessness and housing instability is the gap between low incomes and rent costs. Joe Biden has set the goal of reducing homelessness by 25% by 2025, but the expiration of COVID-era rental assistance, stimulus payments, and eviction moratoriums throughout his term have sent the trend into reverse. The National Low-Income Housing Association estimates that the U.S. has a shortage of 7 million affordable units for those in poverty, but the Biden administration has done little to expand the housing supply. For instance, despite laying out a housing supply action plan in 2022 to close the shortfall of affordable housing, very little new spending was authorized to actually accomplish this in this year's spending bill. While the homeless suffer the absolute worst effects of America's housing affordability crisis, tens of millions of Americans who are not homeless are still feeling the crunch. Nearly 11 million households spend more than half of their income on rent, and young families increasingly feel that homeownership is a pipe dream because of costs. And while a certain subset of unfathomably annoying commentators continue to insist that America's negative feelings about Bidenomics are based purely on vibes and not their actual experiences, the increasing unaffordability of housing is very good reason for pessimism. Homelessness is a very simple problem that's often overanalyzed. The fact is, there's a group of people who have found themselves, for whatever reason, unable to secure a roof over their heads. Usually, they simply don't have enough money because rent is very high, wages very low, meaning that even if you work full-time, it's extremely hard to afford a small apartment in many cities. There's a very direct correlation between how expensive housing is and how many homeless people there are. It's perfectly possible to simply provide a guaranteed right to housing. This is the approach Finland has taken. They're eradicating homelessness through the novel solution of providing housing for people. They took action, and as a result, they went from having a substantial homeless population to the point where by 2020, practically no one was sleeping rough on a given night in Finland. For more news, visit the Current Affairs News Briefing at currentaffairs.substack.com.